British Prime Minister Keir Starmer called it one step closer to peace and warned Russia against any delays or conditions. Alongside Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk all stood united. They announced the ceasefire would begin on Monday, May the 12th, covering land, air and sea. Zelensky confirmed the US, under President Donald Trump, fully backs the plan. He warned that violations are expected, but said Ukraine will strengthen defences. He also called for foreign support forces to be included in security guarantees. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer urged Vladimir Putin to extend the VE Day pause into a full 30-day ceasefire, saying there must be no delays, conditions or excuses if peace is the goal. Let's listen in.
And so all of us here, together with the US, are calling Putin out. If he's serious about peace, then he has a chance to show it now by extending the VE Day pause into a full, unconditional 30-day ceasefire, with negotiations to follow immediately once a ceasefire is agreed. No more ifs and buts, no more conditions and delays. Putin didn't need conditions when he wanted a ceasefire to have a parade, and he doesn't need them now.
Macron declared the ceasefire must be without preconditions. He threatened massive sanctions if Russia breaches it. Starmer stated Putin didn't need conditions to hold a parade. He doesn't need them for peace. Let's listen to the French president.
Un instant, à l'issue de la réunion de la coalition des volontaires, d'avoir un échange avec le président Trump, à la fois pour lui rendre compte de ce travail, pour le remercier de l'initiative qu'il a prise il y a maintenant plusieurs mois et initiée, et nous aligner sur chacun de ces termes, ce qui est bien le cas.
Well, joining us to discuss these latest developments is Quinton A. Hitchcock, a USA Affairs expert, joining us from Houston in Texas. Quinton, thank you for joining us this morning. Let's first look at this statement from Vladimir Putin, very clearly setting out that he thinks direct communications with Ukraine is a must, and also setting a date, a place and a time for these talks. Given what we have seen from European leaders, the United States and Ukraine themselves, why do you think Putin has taken this path?
I think Putin's upset. Recently, the United States entered into a rare earth mineral deal in Ukraine. I don't think he's pleased about that. So I think he's certainly pushing the envelope. What's amazing about this is that the United States already proposed a deal to end the war in Ukraine that was highly favorable to Russia. Remember, they get Crimea. Ukraine can never join NATO. So it's unclear what he wants. It's unclear why he's unwilling to move forward. I understand he's upset, as you mentioned, that Europe and America or the United States are continuing to send weapons to Ukraine. But he is wearing out his welcome, and patience for Russia and Vladimir Putin is running very, very thin, not just in Europe, but especially with President Trump. And that's an extraordinary thing to say. President Trump has been very, very close to Putin for a long time. So if President Trump is becoming impatient with Putin, then I think that shows everybody that we have a significant problem. We are just hours away. If they do not come to the table, if they do not show signs that they're going to move forward with a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, we're just hours away from some pretty severe sanctions being placed on Russia. We're talking about sanctions in the energy sector, the banking sector, and that's something that will cripple their economy much more than it already has.
Quinton, do you think that Ukraine and their Western allies have put this now down to an ultimatum? It's clear they've given a date for the start of this proposed 30-day ceasefire. Do you think this really is now, ball is in Putin's court, and now he decides where this war goes?
I think so, because I don't know where else we can go. Okay, because again, the deal that we've placed forward with Russia and Ukraine did not favor Ukraine. It was a deal that was highly criticized by a lot of European leaders, highly criticized by Zelensky himself and much of Ukraine. So I don't know where we go from here if we do not proceed with a unconditional ceasefire. So I think we're at the ultimatum stage right now. I think that's a very uncomfortable place for the rest of us to be in, for Europe, for particularly Western Europe and Eastern Europe, but also the American West and the United States. So this is, I think this is a turning point, and this week we should have some pretty telling information about where we go from here.
Quinton, to bring an end to this discussion, we have a couple of minutes left. I want to look at these sanctions that the European leaders and Donald Trump's administration have spoken about in recent days. How significant would it be if further sanctions are placed on Russia, given that there are already so many in place since that full-scale invasion in 2022?
Well, you just mentioned, I think, the 8-ball right there, which is so many sanctions are already in place. Let's be very clear: the Russian economy is struggling. They're having a lot of difficulty moving natural gas and oil. They're one of the biggest energy producers in the world, and they have to funnel all of that through other countries. So they're having extreme difficulty as it is right now. If we continue to put banking sanctions forward and more energy sanctions, they're not going to have a choice but to come to the table. So that being said, it's just so puzzling to me what we're waiting for and what Putin is waiting for, that we can't just enter into an agreement now so that they don't have to go through all of this heartache. And trust me, that is what's going to happen. If President Donald J. Trump is growing frustrated with Vladimir Putin, that should tell you everything that you need to know about how unreasonable Russia has been, particularly in the last 2 weeks.
Quinton A. Hitchcock, thank you very much for joining us to discuss the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. You will be staying with us later in the hour, but that is all that we have time for. We'll continue to bring you more information on Europe, of course, the ongoing India-Pakistan tensions, and much more from across the world very soon.